Well, take two. Since I don't know how to edit, I decided just start all over again. Well, this is me telling you how I started all this. Well, I was nursing my husband through, well, we had about a decade of we knew that any time now. And so we had a lot of time to prepare. But life became taking care of someone with a terminal illness is difficult and it's confining. And so after that, I had an epiphany one day at the hairdresser's. I had had a strict rule about no hairspray because the just the smell of a little hairspray would send him into a breathing crisis. So I would have to use what little time I had to myself at one of the kids, showering the stuff out, washing it out, because even just a just a tiny bit of it would just set him off. And so, I started laughing. I said, uh, he's been dead for 2 years now. I don't think it's going to bother him anymore. And at that point, I heard the voice of God just laughing at me. I have to stop. There's this tiny little chipmunk uh, that's been playing peekaboo with me. Nope, he's not going to let me take his picture. He may pop in on that rock. Nope, he's just playing peekaboo. He's teasing me. Well, um, voice of God, and he was God was saying, gently laughing at me and saying, "How many other things? That's good. Now, how many other things are you holding yourself hostage, imprisoned for just silly reasons?" And I was, oh wow, got to think about that. And as that happened, I had a not just remembering, but re experiencing very briefly but thoroughly. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I come from a long line of storytellers, you'll tell by talk, 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 talk. And I could see, it was at night, and I could see in the lit rooms families gathered around tables, around TVs, and uh, every cell of my body is my first experience of passion. Uh, every cell of my body just burning to know what is it like to be a member of this family? What is it like to live in this area? What are the stories of this area? What are the stories of this family? Every cell of my body burned to know, and I just wanted to run up to these doors and pound on the doors and say, "Tell me your stories." Uh, that scares people, so I don't. I don't do that, but I wanted to, and I still, at times, I find myself when that passion is burning, I just want to, everyone, just, what are your stories? What are your stories? And I re experienced that for the first time in a very long time. And since then, it's a very common occurrence. And I get now, I'm skipping ahead. So at that point, I knew that, and that voice of God said, "It's time," and just shook me on a cellular level. And within a month, I am not a person of uh, great organizational skills, but within a month, I had my camper and my truck. It took me a little while to get that sorted, but within a few months, from October, and I left in December. In 3 months, I was ready. I was on the road. and no idea of what I was doing. Not the smallest clue, other than I knew that this was what I was going to be doing. Um, it took a year for me to learn how to live a life like this. Cheap RV living is your greatest resource if you're curious. Uh, and I realized then I had a truck and a slide-in camper, and I realized I needed a van. So, there's somebody's got looks about the same camper I had. Um, oh, covered my camera lens. Um, I now have a ProMaster van. I named her Dandelion. I'll tell you why sometime. It's a nice story. Um, and it took me about a year to get that, turn that into a very lovely tiny house. I'll show you later what she looks like inside. And there's that little chipmunk that's teasing me, coming right so close to me. It's so cute. He's only about 3 inches tall. So cute. Um, so that's how I started doing this. Now I travel. I go back home on occasion. I'm so sorry. I go back home on occasion to hug grandchildren and visit with children and maintain uh, my residency in Ohio. And the rest of the time, I travel wherever I want. I try to stay within my Goldilocks zone, not too hot, not too cold. Um, and you'll find me in the winter, usually in the desert southwest, having lots and lots of fun. I get to meet the most interesting people. I have my breakfast coffee in the most beautiful places. I discover places that I've learned to go with the flow, because when everything seems to be going wrong and none of my plans are going as I've decided to never cling to a plan, it's best to let things happen as they will, to come up with an idea of what I want to do, but just really be very fluid with it, because in doing so it leaves room for marvelous serendipity. I've discovered places to eat, uh, places to visit and go back to. Some of my favorite places on the planet um, came about. I would have just uh, barreled through, just driven through without realizing what beautiful treasures of stories and people lie within those places. And it's every morning I wake up, I clap my hands and rub them together and say, okay, universe, what do you have in mind today? What is the adventure? And so that, well, there are times that are boring, but generally those are welcome, because they're times to gather, catch your breath, recoup, get your mind together, and just rest or create. I carry lots of craft supplies with me, and I'm constantly making things, and I enjoy that. So my life is full of adventures and beauty, um, miracles, small and large. And most of all, I have a sister and a friend I grew up with who are having trouble. getting out. And when my husband was no longer able to hike, he did so. We just did it very, very slowly, but eventually he couldn't even do that. On my respite days, I would go out and go hiking, and I would take a camera with me and tell everyone, say hi, Gary, and take him along on the adventure with me. And that's what I'm doing today. If you want to watch and come along with the adventure, have coffee with me in some of these wonderful, beautiful places, meet some of these wonderful people. Um, if there are ideas of things that you would like to see or that you have seen and you would like to see again, I've been to Yellowstone before and I'm on my way again. And so if you have ideas, put them down in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. As I say, I always handle a plan very loosely. I never let it get in the way of marvelous new discoveries. So, as I like to end things with, is here we go. So, here we go.